Hooty hoo! Hey everybody, welcome to episode 77. Alright guys, so we're here with another great guest. I feel like I just say this on repeat now, but our next guest I found on Instagram. One of the conditions I was really looking for was lupus because it's something that I don't know, you don't hear a whole lot of people talking about. I know it's in certain communities more than others, and especially in women. And so I really wanted to talk about it. It's just one of those that kind of triggered me. And the only time I ever really heard much about lupus, I know people are going to wonder why a guy is watching the show, but I was watching, whatever that Tyra Banks show was, the model show, America's Next Top Model. And there was a black woman on there with like short hair, and she was very, very, very pretty. And she was suffering from lupus, and she made it to towards the end. I don't even know if she won because I didn't watch the show that much. It was just on, and just watch her suffering from it, and it was really sad to see. I was really young, so I don't remember a whole lot about it, but it made me think about lupus when I was kind of going through all these different conditions of what I want, this little checklist of conditions I want to cover at least once, if not multiple times. But as long as I can find one person, I'm happy with it. And so I started going through Instagram, and I found our next guest that way. One of the things I really enjoyed about reading and watching some of her videos and pictures and stuff is that she's a very beautiful woman, but she does what she does very tastefully. I see a lot of people with disabilities that are either in wheelchairs or have a disability, and they're pretty, but they try to like over sexualize themselves to make themselves like it's kind of in your face, like, hey, look, I'm sexy and I'm in a wheelchair, so now I'm in a bikini just so you know I'm sexy. And it's kind of gross because it's really not what the message should be. Like, you can be pretty and be in a wheelchair, or you can be pretty and have a condition. It's just you don't have to sexualize it to make yourself look good. But with this woman, she's a beautiful woman, and she shows that she's pretty, and she shows that she can do more, and she overcomes, but she doesn't, like I said, she does it in a tasteful way. It's not just this, like, 'cause if you look at Instagram, there's so many Instagram whores, and I don't mean just like women, just people just selling themselves and showing off what they have. And, but she wasn't doing that. And I wanted to interview her anyway because she had this condition, but, anyways, I stop, bragging about you. Can you tell us your name and obviously a little about yourself?
Hello, my name is Jessica. I was born and raised here in Miami, Florida. Sorry.
You're good. Getting a little nervous?
Yeah, sorry.
You're fine. No one's listening to this, by the way. It's not live, so we're just letting you know. It's just you and me.
I know. I've always just been that type of person. Even like when I had to record videos for classes, I just get nervous.
You're fine. Do what you got to do.
But I did want to talk about the over sexualization that you mentioned.
Sure.
About people with disabilities. I think that the reason why a lot of them do it is because, well, many of us aren't seen as desirable. And so I understand the message that many of them are trying to put out. And I think that they do it in a tasteful manner. So far, I haven't seen one that is, I guess, grotesque or overly explicit. I at least I haven't gone that deep into Instagram.
Yeah, there's just a few out there where it's just, like I said, I get it. I understand. You're right. Like, that we aren't really represented in when people look at us, they don't go, especially women in that way. They don't look at them as like, oh, they're sexy because they're in a wheelchair. And there's a lot of very pretty people with disabilities. And again, beauty is whatever. But yeah, there's just some that were really, they're trying to kind of placate to the whole, what people call thirst trapping now, which is all the people just kind of shaking their asses and doing all these things. But they're doing it in a way of like, okay, I can do this too. It's just, see, I'm also in a wheelchair. And it's like, you don't like, and I think that for me, it's more of a woman thing where like, it's kind of a cop out because you're trying to like, you want people to know you and you want people to accept you for your beauty and for your disability in this case. And you're kind of conforming to what other women are doing, and that's all they have to offer is their assets. But you actually have something else. You have a story, and you don't have to sell your body to make people pay attention to you. You have more than just that. You have a story. And again, there's nothing wrong with accepting that you are beautiful and you're disabled. It's great, but there's, I think for me, I feel like some of the stuff that they're doing, it comes from a pain where it's like, it's kind of like a false narrative of, hey, I love who I am and I'm beautiful and I'm in a wheelchair, but there's a huge part of them that's probably really depressed about it, and this is their way of kind of faking it till they make it, as far as, hey, I'm beautiful, but I'm in a wheelchair. But the reality is, like, part of them like feels the judgment that everyone is throwing at them, and they probably feel closer to that than what they're actually presenting out on Instagram.
Right. It's misguided in a sense.
Right.
Because yeah.
And that's why I said you, because of you, what you're doing is what some of the people that you're seeing, is why I liked about it, because like you could do what they're doing, but you like I said, you're a pretty woman, but you do it within the confines of, like, yes, I am beautiful, I also am disabled, and they both can kind of coexist together. But I don't have to go further. Like, I can show you that I'm beautiful, I can show you that I'm disabled, but that's it. Like, you don't need to see more of my skin. You don't need to see me in a bikini and whatever else. I mean, you can. There's tastefulness in that as well, but I think some people push those boundaries to the point where it's like, it's kind of like, whoa, like, what is any different between you and that girl over there? That's the only thing she has to offer is shaking her ass because that's the way she gets attention. And it's like, no, man, like, we already have a problem in this world. We live in a world where men, men pretty much built the world that we live in, regardless if people want to. Look, women have a very disadvantage coming into this world because men built it and men made all the rules. And so now we're trying to kind of go back, even with like white and black people, with gay and straight. Like, we're trying to amend all the rules that were kind of broken. And so women are now, there's a lot more women are in power, and they're fighting for their rights and fighting for, that's why all the big feminist movement and the Me Too movement and all that has taken off. But there's a lot of women that are kind of screwing up those movements by going, hey, yeah, I'm a woman, but all I have to offer is my body. And that's really not all a woman has to offer. A woman has a lot more to offer. Women are a lot more nurturing and there's so much more that a woman can do. Just because you don't have the physical assets that a man has, women have to do it more intellectually. And that's more powerful in some ways. And so I think, to me, not to completely get off at a tangent here, but, I think that's why, like I said, I want to gravitate to you, besides the fact you had your disability. I mean, it didn't matter if you were pretty, but it was the fact that you are pretty and you weren't conforming to what a lot of women were doing, with or without a disability.
Right.
But yeah, tell us a little more about you, because we completely went off tangent.
Well, I really like playing guitar. I mentioned this earlier. I really like playing guitar. I like singing. I love reading, writing. I also love fashion. I love cutting hair. It's not something that I can do often, but I love styling others when I can. I recently did my sister's hair, and it actually came out really awesome. It was a whole day ordeal because it does take a toll on my body, but
right.
It was worth it because it came out awesome.
That's great.
I love learning about new things. I love studying. I know that's kind of strange. People always look at me weird when I say that I like studying, but I do. I like it. I loved. I didn't like my primary years of school, but when I went to college, it was a completely different experience, I feel.
Right.
It came with its own difficulties, of course, but I loved it because I felt that I was able to learn in my own way and what I wanted to learn.
Yeah. Well, I think when you get older, like, I notice now, like, there's a lot of things, like, me and my friend were talking about. I used to live in Philadelphia, and there's a museum down there, and you can, it's called the Franklin Institute, and you can learn about all these different parts of the body, and they have all these different parts, and they show them, like, when they're blown apart, or just parts that are just separated. But you can learn so much from all these individual parts of your body, and you just don't really think about it. And I was a
Mhm.
kid, and so I was just going on a trip, and I was just happy to be out of school. I didn't really care about learning what was being taught. And so now, like when him and I were having these conversations about it, I'm like, yeah, man, I should go back there and really, because I remember, like, you remember the show, The Magic School Bus?
Yes.
Okay, and there's an episode there where they like go inside the body and they talk about like the respiratory system and all the things that are infected. They go inside like one of their classmates' body, and they're trying to fix the problem within this person, and but while they're doing that, they're showing you all these different parts of the body, and you're teaching and you're learning, and that always kind of stuck with me as a kid. And
Mhm.
and so as you were saying, like, yeah, kind of when you're in school, like you're just kind of doing what you need to do to get through, and
Yeah.
then when you get older and you get a little smarter and you realize like some of those lessons that were taught to you, you go like, oh, I should have paid attention more to that. And now that you kind of have the time too, you start to do that, and it's like, oh, okay, this is how you study, and this is how you learn what
Yeah.
what kind of human you are in life.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
What is
Um,
your ethnicity?
I am Latina.
Okay.
Yeah, my parents. Well, my mom is from her side of the family was from Colombia. She was born there, and my father was born in Ecuador. And his father is Cuban. Was
Okay.
Cuban. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm a full on white boy, but my sister is half Puerto Rican. So I grew
Oh,
up in a
okay.
Spanish culture for a while, and and I still am in touch with a lot of them. And uh, yeah, it was a totally different experience, but I think that's why people. I mean, you should always spend time with other. If you can grow up in a different culture like that, you really can learn and realize like the differences and the similarities of different
Yeah,
cultures, because then that's how you become less racist and become more understanding of what other people go through.
yeah, I agree. My father joined the military when I was a child, and he eventually was stationed and just ended up residing in North Carolina. So I would go and visit him as a kid and even as an adult, and I lived with him for some time. So I had the pleasure of making friends with people of different cultures as well. So
That's
that
cool.
was interesting.
Um,
Of more of the American culture, I guess.
right. Well, I asked you that because I read something, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. As far as lupus tends to plague more of ethnic women, black and Hispanic, and women in
Yes,
general, right? It's more of a
yes, that's
woman
correct.
condition. Can men get it?
Yes, men can definitely get the uh, can be born. We're not really sure if people are born with it or if it's something that they contract. I feel that not I feel that's something that's still being researched, I think. But men and women can definitely get it. I've online I've met a couple of men that have it. But they also have another illness, another comorbidity. But it does tend to affect mainly women of uh, different ethnicities, such as Black, Hispanic, and Asian women.
Right. So why don't you tell us a little bit, like from what you know, basically what lupus is for the average person that doesn't know.
Lupus is an autoimmune disease that attacks um, basically all parts of the body. It can attack all healthy tissue, such as the joints, the bones, the skin, your vital organs, such as the kidneys, your liver, and the heart and the brain.
Mm.
Um, it's an invisible illness for the most part. Um, Sometimes it can be visible, like the inflammation can become visible, but for the most part, not many people tend to notice it. Not the average person doesn't tend to notice it.
Right.
Um, and but it's a very um, debilitating illness. There is treatment for it. There isn't a cure, but there is treatment for it, and the treatment does help. But even then, there are days where we are more debilitated than most, and we often get told, well, like other people with different invisible illnesses, we often get told, but we don't look sick.
Right. Right. Well, that's a new term,
And
the invisible, and relatively within the last like 5 years, at least from what I can pick up. It's a pretty relative new term as far as invisible disability, because you know, people I mean, we knew of people who had different conditions that weren't visible, but it just didn't have a name to it.
Yeah.
And we're in this social media time now where everything has to have an acronym or a name. But yeah, it's very new, which is kind of interesting, but it's good. I mean, it's good, at least as far as bringing awareness to it. It is considered one
Yeah.
of the chronic pain illnesses, right?
Yes, there is a lot of pain that comes with it, unfortunately. Um, it's some days are worse than others. There are good days, but our good days compared to the average able person, average healthy and able person, it's it would be hell for them.
Right.
Because comparing, I guess, to how I felt as a kid, I didn't. The most I experienced was leg pain, um, but comparing how I felt as a kid to how I felt after I got my first flare, my good days compared to my good days as to when I was healthy or
Mm-hmm.
before lupus became active, it it is hellish if I really sit and think about it.
Right.
Um, but I've gotten used to it in a sense. Um, like for example, using the pain scale is kind of difficult for me to use because what is normal to me now is pain is actually considered painful to others. So it's hard to even explain. I don't even know if I'm making sense.
No. I'll throw in one of my, because I know what you mean. Because especially when you go to the doctor or whatever, and you're always asked, "Hey, hey, from 1 to 10, what is this your pain scale as far as what you're dealing with at that time?" And I told you some of the stuff off mic about me, but I didn't tell you about like one of the condition I had was called Steven Johnson syndrome. And it makes all your skin burn off and hair fall off and teeth and all horrible things that happen to you. And so
Yeah.
to me, a pain scale of a 10 is my skin being all off of my body and me trying to sit and walk and do things without completely passing out. So that's a 10.
Yeah.
But if you go to a doctor and you say, "Hey, my arm hurts," and it's a 3 in comparison to that 10, they're not going to treat it. They're just going to go like, "Oh, take some Advil." But it really is a
Yeah.
10 in comparison to what they would deal with it. Like for them, it might be an 8 or a 9 or a 10. So I know I completely
Yep.
understand what you're saying.
Yeah. And that's one of the main reasons as to why I started advocating because of that. Not just for lupus, but for other illnesses um, that are invisible. We aren't taken very seriously, especially when it comes to pain, or well, not necessarily pain, like any debilitating symptom that comes with our illnesses.
Right. Well, this.
I don't feel like. Sorry.
No. I'm sorry. I always hate doing this because it's like I can't wave my hands at you. They're like, "Hey, I have a question for you." No, I because like you were saying with the chronic disability or the invisible disability, a lot of these chronic disabilities that you can't really tell when someone is really in much pain, even if they're going ow, ow, ow.
Yeah.
You know, people only equate the obvious stuff. Like even in my case, like, okay, people say I'm not blind or visually, because I say I'm legally blind because I'm under the limit of being able to drive. So that's considered, I can get the benefits of what blind people would get, even though I have some sight. But they'll say, well, you don't look blind because I don't have a dog or a cane. Whereas in
Yeah.
like you have pain that's very crippling, but you're not crippled. Like you're not in a wheelchair. So then that's not to the average lame person. They don't see a wheelchair, or they don't see a cane, or they don't see something that makes it look like you're in that much pain, because you can technically physically walk or whatever. It's like, oh, well, you're fine then. It's like,
Yeah.
no, you don't understand
Yeah.
what I'm going through.
Yeah. And they also don't see the days where I am using those a mobility aid because I'm usually at home. Like I can't go out like or be around people most of the time if I'm at the point where I need a mobility aid. So they don't see that. But when people see me, it's on the good days.
Right. And that's the stuff you want. I mean, you show people what you want to show them. And that's
Yeah,
why I've
that as
always
well.
been big on, mental health as a disability because it's something you can't see, but it
Mhm.
cripples you. And of
Yeah.
course, I'm sure you have your own form of mental health yourself, depression and whatever else because of
Yeah.
having your disability. Um, but it's another one where it's like people, you can't see it. And I may be smiling, I may be walking around and living my life, but you just don't know how much pain, at least mentally, I'm in right now. I may want to kill
Yep.
myself, but you don't know that because I'm smiling on the outside. And so, and that's why I love the kind of the movement of the whole invisible disability because there's so much there that you can bring
Yeah.
attention to, but you can't do it if you don't have a name and you don't have people fighting for it because, like I said, people
Yeah.
only pay attention to the obvious stuff.
Yeah. I completely agree. Um, and
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm gonna shut up.
sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I also I also feel that that's why we have to advocate for those who are having difficulties receiving a diagnosis.
Yeah.
Um, because it makes it all that harder for them to get the help that they need.
Right.
And the only help that they can really rely on is support from people online, usually, or other people that they know have an illness, and so they've expressed their symptoms to. Um, but that can only get them so far because oftentimes they're looked at as if they're crazy.
Right. Absolutely.
But sorry, go on. What was your question?
No, I don't know if I might have lost my train of thought. Um, no, I
Sorry.
mean, no, I just was listening to you. Yeah, no, it's absolutely, like I said, you said, you got to bring awareness to it. And there's a lot of people that don't even know what they're going through right now. They're going through this physical pain and they're suffering and, they don't have the right doctor yet, or they don't even have they don't even really know mentally what they're capable of, or
Yeah.
they don't know a whole lot right now. The information, even though there's plenty of information out there, but like if you go to WebMD and you type in "I have chronic pain," like you may get something way worse than you actually have.
Yeah.
So, but the question I was going to ask you is like, so tell us like how you are affected by lupus on a daily basis, or just whatever when you have your worst days. Like how does it affect you personally?
Um, my worst days, I'm bedridden. I can barely move. Um, I usually am using a mobility aid, which is a cane or a walker.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if I do try to get about, um, it's um, it's really difficult to move on my worst days because the inflammation in my joints it stiffens up almost all of my body. So even if I were to push past the pain physically, it's it's kind of impossible because my body just won't move in the way that I want it to because there's something in between inflammation.
Right, right.
um, and then my brain is also it also gets very foggy. Even on my good days, that's one of my worst symptoms, brain fog. Um, but that's something that comes not just with lupus, but with other illnesses. Um, but when I'm in a flare, on my worst days, the brain fog is really bad. I'm completely out of it. I don't really know what day it is. Um, it's hard to complete sentences. Um, and then I'm also like I feel very drained, fatigued, very dead.
Right.
um,
That's like kind of one
yeah,
of the
it's
hardest things about people with disabilities is like, and of course, a lot of that's the mental health stuff that comes with it. But a
yeah,
lot of times we're so mentally drained. Like me and my grandma have had arguments where it's like, I live on my own, but she lives like 2 miles away, and she'll come over sometimes to help me clean, and
mhm,
she'll go, "Oh, why have you even done this? And why haven't you done that?" It's like, Grandma, like I work and I do this podcast, and I shower, I clean myself, I take care of my cat, I do these things,
yeah,
but mentally, like there's times where I just don't have the energy to want to uh, do my dishes. I'm not saying I'm gonna let it go for 3 months. It's just it may take me a week and a half, just because there's just days where I just want to lay on the couch and just kind of just like download all the negative and all the positive or whatever, just get it all out of my head. and just try to
Yeah.
just sit there. And again, with you, like, sometimes you may not be able to physically actually move, so you don't have a choice. So you might have
Yeah,
to,
I don't.
right. So you have to do whatever it is for you that makes you feel comfortable and makes you feel, again, like, 'cause I'm sure some of that is completely debilitating as far as mentally, where it's just like, I'm sure there's times where you're just so depressed. It's like, well, why am I even here? Like, oh, like, have you ever had days where, like, for me, I've had days where I've had really bad eye days for a couple weeks or whatever, and I feel like this is it. Like, my eyes are going to go, or this is like the end of whatever I have. Do you ever have days where you can't see past the pain, and
Yeah,
mentally you're just like, well, I just want to die or whatever? Like, you're just checked
for
out.
sure.
Right.
Yeah, there were years where I felt that way actually. Um, Before I came to acceptance about any of my illnesses and disabilities, I did go through that a lot. Um, Even now, sometimes, like I recently um, fractured I had a knee injury,
Okay.
and um, the the orthopedic that treated me and did the surgery on me, he wasn't surprised because of the arthritis and lupus. Um, and during that time that I was recovering, even though it was, uh, the recovery was a lot faster than what I thought it would be.
Mhm.
Um, Even then, like I was afraid that I would go into a flare, or that my body would, it would just, that my health would worsen, and I was afraid of that this was a new pain or a new ailment that I would have to get used to and learn to live with. Um, and so I kind of went into like a little hole of despair.
Right. You're in
And
this
I
dark
was
place.
afraid, yeah, I was afraid that I wasn't gonna be okay or come out of it. But I'm okay. Like I was able to come out of it.
But that kind of shows what kind of
Uh,
person you are. Like, we don't really know how strong we are until those moments like arise, where, like, I have them too, where I go down these holes of just like, I hate life, and I just don't want to
yeah,
live, or whatever. Or I don't want to even just get out of my apartment. Why am I working? Why am I paying my bills? Why am I doing anything? Like, you just start. It's just so ridiculous. But, again, we understand why we feel those things, but sometimes they get so crazy because then you start to pile on over things that just make no sense.
yeah,
But you never feel like you're going to come out of that hole because you're just in there, and you're in there for
yeah.
so long. Even if you're in there for 24 hours, it feels like you're in there for
Mhm.
days and weeks.
Yeah,
And then when you finally come out of it and you're actually smiling or whatever, you're like, oh, this was possible. I didn't even know this. Like you really realize how strong you are. And again, I'm sure now maybe the holes that you're put in, maybe you get out of them a little quicker than you would years ago because you're now more used to it, and you can kind of settle in. And
yeah, definitely.
even though the days are still bad, and even though it may feel like a setback in your life, it's like, oh, really? I can still act like this. I can still feel like this, 10 years later or whatever. But what you don't give yourself credit for is like, oh, it took me 36 hours to get out of this instead of a month or a week or whatever. So that's kind of the
Yeah,
impressive part of stuff when we go through. Like, we don't realize how strong we get within all the battles that we fight through our lives, until, again, we get old enough and we learn and we realize, like, oh, okay, we are much stronger than the average person, at least mentally and physically too.
yeah. I feel that that's something that I've been forced to learn, living with with chronic illness, and disability, is that you don't know how strong you are until you're forced to be strong, and you don't know exactly, like the saying, you don't know exactly what you have until you lose it.
Right,
Um,
right.
and I feel that those two things go hand in hand, because loss forces you to have to, find a way to be strong even while you are, experiencing the grief.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, the people
But
always,
you articulate it very well.
oh, thank you.
Like, yeah, you articulated it very well.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I mean, again, I'm not religious, but I've heard the slogan of like, God is going to put on your plate whatever he feels you can handle. Now, again, I don't think that always complies, because there are people who literally get too much, and they can't handle it. But
Yeah.
there's a lot that's thrown at us in life. And again, you shine in those moments. Well, some of us do, we shine in those moments. Some people can't handle tragedy. Some people can't handle even just the basic, my girlfriend or boyfriend broke up with me. Some people just lose their shit and they kill themselves over little things. But then there are people who were thrown things every day. And so that when actual, and some, because like we've had with you, like you've had so many different instances where your pain is thrown at you, and I'm sure, and we talked recently, you had a loss and your family, and there's a lot of things that are thrown at you, but like even though it's tragic and it's sad that you have to go through something like that, you've been through so much in your life that you can kind of bounce back quicker than you normally would. Even like if you're in relationships and you date somebody and somebody hurts you, the first time they hurt you, like when I lost my girlfriend that broke up with me in my first relationship, I was an absolute bitch. I cried. I tried to get her back. I threatened to kill myself. I was horrible. I was 16, but I was just miserable. But then the second girl did it, and the third girl, and the fourth girl. And now it's like when I get into a relationship or I just hang out with somebody and somebody like breaks up with me, if I am sad or angry about it, it lasts a couple days. And then I go, all right, there's always other fish in the sea. And you can kind of, compare that to what we go through. It's like, okay, horrible things are going to happen to us. But again, what's going to beat lupus in your life? Probably not much. If there is something, we hope you never see something that's worse than lupus in your life. But, everything that's going to happen to you, it's probably not going to compare to that. And so you're able to battle it and function just easier than you would than when you were first diagnosed with lupus and you had your first flare-up and your first really bad flare-up. So I'm sure, like I said, life in a way gets easier even though you're still dealing with the same pain that you've always had.
Yeah. Yeah, in a sense it does get easier. And in another sense we become tougher.
Yeah, in every way.
Yeah.
So what do you do on the bad days? Like when you can't really move, what do you do for your own peace of mind and to try to get you through however long this flare-up is going to be?
For my own peace of mind, it's kind of hard because usually when I am flaring that bad, I also go into a depressive state. Right. And my body just naturally goes into a depressive state. Like how it happens, I read about this. When people get a cold or the flu or they just get sick, their body naturally goes into a depression so that it can rest. So I already know that when my body is doing that, it probably means that I need rest. So I rest a lot. I sleep a lot. So the physical symptoms can lessen, which in turn helps with the psychological symptoms.
Right.
So I rest a lot.
Can you
when I'm awake?
Can you listen to music or watch shows or anything? Like anything to just kind of distract at least the mental part of it?
Yeah, I try to do that. But for some reason, I guess I feel because I'm not physically active, my mind is so hyperactive, if that makes sense, that it's difficult to really concentrate, or watching TV or listening to music can make me overthink. Because I also have depression and anxiety aside from lupus and lupus-induced depression. I also have my own mental illnesses. So yeah.
No, I got you. For me, it's different because I can literally get out of. I mean, I have my own physical pains too, but it's not on your scale. So, but when I am in that horrible state, a lot of times what I try to do is multitask, where I just try to watch a show or maybe listen to a podcast or something, and then play a game on my phone or whatever I can physically do, and just kind of keep my mind wandering into multiple places, and then maybe it'll stay somewhere. But that's kind of interesting what you said, because you have all this energy mentally because your body doesn't have any. you're done. So like it all goes to where you are mentally. So your mind is probably running like a hamster wheel. It's just constantly there's so many thoughts, but you can't really do much with them
Yeah.
because physically you're bedridden. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. When you're in the
I
bed, like
feel
can you move your arms? Like what can you do within those really bad days?
I can move my arms. I can't lift them, but I can move them. Like if I need to get something, I can move them. I can't. Depending on the severity of the inflammation in my joints, and in my hands, I can hold things up. Um, but when it's really bad, I can't. Yeah, I can't hold anything up. Um, so I just kind of have to lay there.
Right.
Um,
Well,
yeah,
does anyone help
but
you?
I
Like your mom or anybody? Does somebody like help you
yes,
when you get through those days?
my yeah, my mother helps me. My family does help me. My mom helps me. My sister has helped me. My younger brother has helped me. Um, I also like when I can, I try to I call my friends and talk to them, and that also helps a lot. So that's something that does help and is distracting. Um,
That's cool.
or they play video games. I don't play video games, but they do, and they go on this application or this it's a website I think, but it has an application. It's called Discord, and
Oh,
so I just
Discord, right?
listen to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just listen to them. And yeah.
No, I got you. How long do these flare ups, like maybe the average, when they're really bad? How long do they last for you?
Well, now that I'm on a different treatment, then it's called Benlysta.
Okay.
Um, the symptoms have been less severe, and and the flares have been not as frequent. Um, so it now it usually lasts me the max 2 weeks. Um,
Still a long time.
yeah, it's still a long time, but not as long as it was before. Before it would last me like months. Even when I wasn't in a flare, I was still having flare-like symptoms.
Hmm.
Um, and I would still have like um, a chronic inflammation in a certain joint that wouldn't go away. Um, but since I started this new treatment, it's gotten better. Like at least it's helped my immune system calm down a bit.
Well, that's good. Is there any, which I mean that's a huge, to most people it's like, well, I'm in bed, I can't move for 2 weeks. That's terrible. But the fact that it is the medication or the treatments that you're using is so much more beneficial than what you were taking before. Is there a possibility where your flare-ups can be hours or days? Like, can we get to a point where you're, you're less bedridden than even what you are now?
Yeah, I get I've always gotten these like I still get them now. I call them like mini flares and they last for about a day to 3 days. Um yeah. And I get the symptoms aren't as severe as a full on flare. But I still get the really bad fatigue. And I get achy all over. I don't have much of an appetite. Yeah, I still get some symptoms, but it's still not as severe as the full-on flare.
Oh, so
I
even
mean,
when you,
it's still bad, but it's not as severe as the full-on flare.
right. So what is the difference now? Like if you're bedridden for 2 weeks, can you move a little more and do a little more now, even though you're still there for weeks? Like, are you
Yeah,
still a little more active than you would be when you were going through when you had the flare ups that were going on for months?
yeah. The huge difference is like I can meet most of my own basic needs. Like I don't need help from my family to like drink water,
Right.
for example. Like I can hold up my own water bottle. I can still like walk myself without a mobility aid. I'm just achy.
Right. Okay. So it's just one of those like you just don't want to you can't go to work. You just can't be too active, but so it's more home ridden than bedridden. Like you just have to be home, you have to be comfortable and um in your confines of whatever your comfortability is, whereas before it was essentially crippling. Like you could not do anything.
Yeah, I still have to rest. I feel in order for the symptoms to ease up.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I feel it's less severe. It's gotten less severe.
Right.
I'm also not working at the moment, so I think that plays a huge role because I was trying to work full time um, and even part time before. I tried that as well, and it was really hard on my body, and I haven't for almost a year now. Um, so that's been a huge help for my body. I wish that I could just go and work. But, but yeah, at the moment we're me and my family we're waiting for me to get the disability assistance.
Oh, you haven't gotten that yet, huh?
No.
Okay. You will. But yeah, you just gotta. I guess the only way to look at it mentally is just, you got to take the positives with this as far as, yeah, like it's a good thing that you're not working because, again, most people probably wouldn't hire you, especially if you're crippling for 2 weeks or months or whatever, but you physically
Yeah.
couldn't take it. But the fact that you are getting better over time and you have seen such an improvement, maybe it's not the improvement that you would want because obviously you want it all the way gone and you want to be able to just live a normal life. But that's
Of course.
probably, I mean, I hope the best for you and I hope that is a future for you. But as of right now, you can't really look too far down the road and you have to be realistic. But the fact that you have
Yeah.
improved so much already is a great thing. So, obviously there's definitely opportunities out there and you can definitely do whatever you want. It's just, unfortunately, one of the things we have to be, and which we don't like to be, is patient. And,
Yes.
but it'll come for you.
Yeah. That's one thing that I've learned as well as I have to be patient with my body. It runs on its own time. And but yeah, like you said, no jobs would really want to hire me because in the last job that I was working towards the end, I started becoming inconsistent because I I was in a really bad flare. I had just started the Benlysta treatment, so um, it gets worse before it gets better.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in a really bad flare. I ended up in the hospital. Yeah. So it was inconsistent work, and yeah, it's not fair to other companies as well.
Right. And that's why you gotta, which what you're doing on Instagram and, just advocating and getting yourself out there. And, that's why you just gotta put some eyes on you. Even like with what I do with this, it's like, yeah, like I have another job that I don't love, but it pays the bills. And in order for me to get this off the ground and really get it to where I want it to be, where it is financially setting and I can, live off of it, I need to be patient and I have to just realize like I have an okay job right now. It pays all right just because I don't love it. I had someone on here who was a stroke survivor and she made me look at it differently. She said, hey, look at it from the standpoint of it's your investor. They're investing in your podcast equipment. They're investing in everything you do financially and just, they're helping you build, even though that's not what their intentions are, but they're helping you build by giving you paychecks. And then once you have the financial means or once you have the audience that, uh, helps you to get that financial means from the podcast, then you can leave that job and then you don't need that investor anymore. But, so yeah, I mean, it is hard because, like I said, I'm lucky enough to have a job. But if you look at 75% of us, people with disabilities, we're unemployed. Um,
Yeah.
yes, some of that is on us. Some of us are lazy. Some of us don't want to work. But there's a huge amount of us that do. And if I lost my job tomorrow, I would be in a lot of shit because it's not easy
Yeah.
to find another job. I'm very determined. I will fight for it and I will figure a way, but it won't be
Yeah.
easy. Um, And so for you, like, yeah, like, but that's why I think what you do, you kind of have to build your own, even when you just build your own audience, just with Instagram and whatever else you do, just get people to know that you're serious about what what you're doing and what you care about. And hopefully things will come from that. And you might be able to find yourself a job that you didn't even know was out there
Yeah.
that works within
Yeah,
your
I
parameters.
I agree.
Is lupus fatal?
It can be, but it's not necessarily fatal. Like, just
Okay.
because you're diagnosed with lupus or because you have lupus, it doesn't mean that you're gonna die.
Has that
But
changed over
it's
time?
yes, definitely.
Okay.
Um, yeah, for sure.
The reason why I asked that is because, like, when I told you that story about the woman on that show, it was pretty much implied that she was probably going to die. Now, this was like early 2000s, and it didn't seem, again, I don't. It wasn't. It was just one character on the show, and it wasn't like a, she was just a person that was very pretty, and she was doing well on the show, but it wasn't really. They didn't go too deep into what lupus was, and but it was implied that she was probably going to die, so she was trying to live her life as best as she could. And again, I don't know whatever happened to that woman, but yeah, it was implied that she was probably going to die. So I didn't know if that was just her actual diagnosis or if lupus literally can kill you. But yeah, I would have figured over time, maybe medication and everything, technology is
Yeah.
maybe to help you guys.
Well, it's a loaded answer because okay, so it it can be fatal because it can attack, like I said, it can attack any organ.
Mm-hmm.
It mainly attacks the kidneys, the liver, the heart, and the brain, right? So it can cause strokes, and that could be fatal. Um, it can attack the kidneys, and if it's not found in time, as well as the liver, if those aren't found in time, then the the stages of failure, like it, yeah, sorry, it just starts attacking the organs. And if it's not found in time, then usually that's yeah, it becomes fatal.
Right.
And then another thing is accessibility to the treatment. Not many people have access to treatment.
Right.
Um, for example, I didn't for 4 years. And during that time, I didn't know if I was going to survive or not. I didn't know if the lupus was going to start attacking any organ.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I survived for 4 years. But other people don't, yeah,
Is it hard to
they
get
don't have that
coverage?
chance.
And I'm assuming it's very expensive.
Yeah, it is expensive. The only reason why I have health insurance at the moment is because of my mother's job.
Uh,
Um, yeah,
but that's why the
and
disability thing would help if you were to get that.
yeah, yes. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have health insurance. Um, and I don't really know where I would be right now. But the thing is, she herself was recently diagnosed with lupus, maybe about a year or two ago. So, and it's starting to affect her now. Um, so like she's sacrificing like going to work, with her symptoms as well, so that we can have health insurance. So we're hoping that I do get the disability soon, and so that when I do get it, she can get it, so that she can also have the health insurance that she needs. That's mainly like what we want it for. We just want to be able to have the treatment that we need to survive,
Right.
because there are a lot of people that don't have the treatment. There was this uh, woman that I came in contact with through Instagram a couple of years ago, and her sister was living. She was living in Spain, but her sister was living in Venezuela. And at that time, that's when there was a lot of corruption going on with the government, and unfortunately, the country went to ruin. And a lot of people didn't have access to treatment, and so this this woman, she had lupus, and she had two daughters, and she didn't have access to treatment, and so we tried to start a fund and tried to get what she needed, but even then she wasn't able to get access to the treatments that she needed. I think she ended up getting lupus nephritis and she passed away. But that's something that happens here in the United States as well. There's people that don't have access to treatment. And so in that sense, yes, lupus can be fatal.
Yeah. I guess you guys really have to have a very tight niche household as far as obviously your mom would help and support you and your brothers and everything. But now if she has it and you have it, you guys really have to everybody has to play a part and whoever's down that moment, the other people have to pick that person up and help get them through whatever they're getting through. And then,
yes, exactly.
It sucks that you're going through that, but it's good that you guys have each other, because if you didn't have each other, who knows where you guys would be.
Yeah, she tells me that all the time, because before I left my last job, I was living alone, and I wasn't doing really good health wise. That the reason why I ended up in the hospital was because I had internal bleeding due to an ulcer from some of the treatments that I take for the lupus, such as prednisone and naproxen, which is an anti-inflammatory painkiller. And prednisone is steroids. And so I had already been taking the prednisone for years, and then the naproxen, I had been taking it almost every day to be able to function at work. So it ended up causing ulcers in my duodenal intestine, I believe. And so I had internal bleeding, and I almost died, and I was living alone. I ended up needing 2 blood transfusions. And if I hadn't gone to the hospital, if I would have gone straight to work like I was planning to that day, I would have died. And so my mom tells me that if we didn't have each other, that neither of us would really be in a good place. Because like you said, when she's down, I try to help around the house. And my grandmother was also recently diagnosed with lupus around the same time that my mom was.
Wow.
So whenever my grandmother is down, and she's also a cancer survivor, 3 times, I believe. So
your grandma or your mom?
My grandmother. Okay. So whenever she's down, I try to help if I'm okay. And then, like, whenever any of us is down, like you said, one tries to pick up,
Yeah, you gotta, again, that's kind of when reaching out to you and having all these people on, it's just to kind of build this tight niche community that, again, we understand life isn't fair. We understand that things are going to be thrown our way that we don't accept or like. But if we're together and we when one of us is dealing with something, we can pick each other up. Just because we're going through things ourselves, it's easier to balance it when you have people who understand. Even though I don't understand all your physical pain, or you may not understand my vision problem, but we can understand from other ways, and we understand it's in the same vein in a lot of ways, and you just pick each other up. You say, hey, I'm here when you need something, and it's nice when you have somebody you can call or someone you can hang out with when, if you're in pain, you're in bed, and someone can come over and just say, hey, I'm here for you. Or they can, play their video games and just talk to you and are there for you. Like, that means a lot, because when you get into those dark spaces in your head, those are the times when you're alone and, like, absolutely alone. There's no one there physically. That's when you really start to wander into places, the very bad territories of, maybe I shouldn't be here anymore and all that. And so that's why it's good that, again, with your, you were diagnosed before your mom and now your grandma. And so you guys can play off of each other. I mean, obviously they have a huge template of experience for you to kind of play off of. It's like, okay, I know what she went through. I know what maybe I'm in store for myself. And of course it's always different for others and what the pain they're going to get and all that. But she knows what you went through. And now So, and then she also knows you'll help there and be there and support her, and then of course your grandma, and so you have, even though it sucks that you all have it, at least you have people who love and care about each other,
Yeah.
and you guys can kind of talk each other through it, and you're not alone. Like, you can't say you're alone because you have two people, probably two of the most important people in your life, have it as well. So now you know that there's two people that not only will help be there for you when you have it, but also know that they're going through the same exact challenges.
Yeah.
Um, just like quickly, like how did it affect you through schooling?
So I had to leave high school because that's around the time when it started affecting me. Um, I was 16 when I got into my first flare, and then a few days after my 17th birthday is when I got the diagnosis of lupus, systemic lupus, and then I had missed 2 or 3 months of school, so I had a lot of catching up to do, and I tried to do it. I tried first going back to school in person, but that was a lot on my body. So then we tried to do online schooling, and I didn't feel like I was learning anything. So
Right.
I just got my GED, and then after that, like a year later, I started college, and then um, and then with that, it was difficult, physically difficult. Um, but I pushed myself a lot. Even like I don't know how the hell, like when I think back on it and and the bad days, like I don't know how the hell I pushed myself through it, how I walked. Um, like my family, they tell me that they're very proud of me because of that, because they saw like how I physically was, how I felt, and that I still pushed myself to go to college and finish. Um, and but it was very difficult. Worth it because I loved it. And I loved studying. I loved the friends that I made. It was a new experience because I had been living in a cave for a really long time.
Right. Yeah.
um, but like I said, it did come with its difficulties. Specifically towards the end, because I didn't take any breaks. Like and through the semesters, I didn't take any breaks. I just wanted to finish. I just wanted to get my associates, get it over with. Oh, sorry, I
No,
lost
you're
my
fine.
track of my train of thought.
You're fine. You're talking about getting your associates and going to college and.
How it affected me.
Oh yeah, how it
Yeah,
affected.
towards the end, it was more, it became more difficult. That's when I started getting more pain. Um, and then my anxiety and depression started worsening as well. And I didn't really know why. But I mean, now I know that it had to do with me flaring up. Um, and then I was able to graduate. Um, but unfortunately, because of uh, towards the end, it started becoming more difficult. And being present in class, even if I was physically present, being psychologically present in class became difficult as well. So my GPA dropped a couple of points. So I was down about that, but I was able to still graduate. I was still able to accomplish something. So
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I'm proud of you. That's great. Um, so where do you accomplish that? So in the next whatever. I mean, I'm not gonna say what's your 5 year plan or any of that. It's all hokey. But like, I know you like music and fashion and so on. Like, what do you want to accomplish down the road or soon?
well, I would like to be more proactive in the chronically ill and disabled community as well. Um, I want to go back to school to study music and psychology, to do music therapy, because I feel that music is what has helped me a lot. When I'm coming out of a flare is when I can listen to music. Um, and I feel that it helps me a lot. And being able to play the guitar has helped me a lot in regards to my mental health. And so I feel like I've always wanted to be a psychologist. So I think it would be cool to mix both and be able to help people that way, or help people who are in hospice with music. Um, and then there's also some projects that I would like to do in regards to fashion. I would like to make something geared towards people like us.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying earlier. Just continue to do what you're doing, make yourself known. Even if you physically can't do certain things right now, do it like what you're doing with Instagram and if any other platform is what you're doing, and then just make yourself known. Make it so eventually people have to hear you, and then you could probably create opportunities for you that you don't even really know that's out there. Because honestly, when I first started this podcast, a lot of opportunities have come from this. And again, it's not the biggest podcast in the world or anything. A few hundred people listen, and it's great. But it started off with 10, and I've gone back
Yeah.
to talk to some former students of the school I went to. Had a lot of vision impaired and blind kids, and I got to be on a council here in town to help people with disabilities as far as like discrimination.
That's awesome.
And again, I can keep meeting people like you and just having experiences like that. But a lot of things have come from this. Someone made me a website. Someone made me a shirt. I was on their show, and they took one of my quotes and put it on a T-shirt. Like, these are things that I couldn't even fathom
Nice.
before I even started doing this, because I didn't think anyone even would care about my dumb voice. So if you keep putting yourself out there and you keep doing even things like this, and just you keep putting yourself out there, you're going to create an opportunity that you probably never knew ever existed. And maybe this is even
Yeah.
something you want to get into, talking, just advocating and
Yeah.
podcasting or blogging or anything.
Yeah.
Get yourself
Well,
out there.
I wanted to. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Go.
I wanted to do something like what you're doing now, like interviewing other people with disabilities. So I think it's really cool that you're doing it.
Thank you. If you need any help,
I think
please
it's
let me
awesome.
know.
I think it's awesome, actually. So there's some people whose story I wanted to share, but I'll definitely tell them about you so that you can interview them.
Yeah,
And
please.
because I think their story should be shared as well.
Yeah, like I said with my friend Lori, when she died, it took a lot out of me, and I wouldn't say I was there. I was there in spirit in a way. I mean, I was on the phone with her, but when she was dying, like, I got to see her completely unravel and lose everything. And we knew it was coming for a long time, but when it actually happened, it was my first real loss in my life, and I loved her to death. And I didn't think it was fair for me to get on here and not tell her story. Did
Of
I have
course.
to? No, but I did, and I felt great about doing it, and it was an emotional episode for me. But
Yeah.
I like these more because I get to because I don't have I don't know the feeling for your life. I don't know it, but like if you told me to, like, if you were like, I can't really do it, but here, I'll write it all down and you can just say it. Like, I don't have the emotion for your story. I feel your pain, and I really do feel terrible for you and your mom and your grandma, but I don't have the real emotion for it. So I really want to hear your voice. I really want to hear what you go through, because you can paint a picture that I can't. I'm very vivid, and I can, I have very good imagery, and I can picture everything you're going through. But if I physically don't have the emotion and I don't have the physical pain of it to actually portray it out there for the world. So when interviewing people like you, it's like, yeah, like, you can just say it, and it hits way harder than what if I were to say it, because like I said, it's not my story. And so, yeah, but like, anybody you want, of, please reach out to me anytime. But if you need any help, even if you want to get into this world, it's not that hard. I mean, it can be expensive at times buying equipment or whatever, but I mean, as far as guests and all that, I know a lot of people. If you ever need any help, or like I said, just please reach out. I'll do whatever I can.
Awesome. Thank you.
Before we kind of wrap up here, is there any? I always like the guests, especially kind of in a niche way. But is there any? Because as you've said multiple times, that there are people out here that don't have the luxury of what you're going through right now. You don't have the treatment, or they don't have the treatment, and so on. Like, Is there any words you have for a young Jessica, or even a guy, but whatever, a young you that is just got diagnosed with lupus or a chronic illness, and they really are kind of in the darkest places of where you have come from? Is there any like advice you have for them to kind of burrow themselves out of it?
Yeah.
Okay, just
It's
just
gonna
yes.
get no, no.
Okay,
No, I was saying yes. There's
I got you.
yeah. um. So it's scary. Um. In the beginning, it is very scary. Even years from now, there will be many scary moments, and things will get worse before they get better. But things will get better. You will get stronger, and you will be okay. Even on the days that you aren't physically or psychologically okay, you'll find a way to be okay.
Absolutely, yeah. It's what you got. Like I said, it doesn't have to be this elaborate scheme, or just these amazing words to put out there. Sometimes it's very basic of what a person can say to you, but if you're going, because there's people who are going through lupus, and your story, and being a woman, there's a lot of things that they can just resonate with, and it's like, hey, like, just even the most basic words can actually inspire them, because again, like I
Yeah,
said, we said off mic, and I think we said on mic that, it's easy to feel alone. And there's people, like, I have a disability, but people might not care about my story in the lupus community because I'm visually impaired. And what do I know about the pain that they're going through, or vice versa? Maybe in the visually impaired or blind community, they hear lupus and they go like, well, what do you know about our pain? But you are like them, and they can't refute what you're going through, and everything you say must resonate strongly within them. And the more people who speak up and put it as adequate and beautiful as you did, it may inspire more people to speak up, because again, it seems like this is more of a newer thing for you to speak up and actually get your story out there. And it takes a while for us to actually become comfortable with who we are and what we have and what we lack, and what our limitations are and all that. And it's hard to own who we are, but when we actually do, there's a lot of great things we can put out to the world, and there's a lot of people we can inspire. It's just we have to kind of figure out how to love ourselves first and kind of accept ourselves, because I think for a long time, at least in my opinion, for me, for a long time, I was trying to get people to accept me, but I didn't really accept myself. I was trying so hard to just make people love me, and whatever else. And the reality was, like, I didn't really care about me. I was just trying to please other people. And then now that I'm a lot more comfortable with who I am in my own skin, and what I am and what I go through, um, I'm not embarrassed at all about having my disability. I'm not embarrassed about having my eye
yeah,
problem. People can perceive me to be whatever they want. I may look at something closely and they may perceive me as slow or whatever. That's on them. But, that's not going to change my path. That's not going to change my journey and what I'm trying to do. So, um,
yeah.
and that's what you do. And I really appreciate this. Honestly, I love having you on. You're a great guest. You're a very beautiful person. I don't mean just, on your outer appearance. Like, you really have a lot to talk about. And it's funny that you were so nervous, but you seem to kind of get a little more comfortable as it went on. And but yeah, if you ever need anything, like I said, not just podcast crap, like if you need just, like I said, someone to talk to in your darkest times, please reach out. I'm here anytime. Like I said, anything you need, just please reach out.
Awesome. Thank you, TJ, and thank you so much again for letting me share my story.
Of
I
course.
do hope that anybody else that does have lupus, if they come across this, I hope it helps them.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
hope that like your podcast helps other people as well. I think what you're doing is really good.
Absolutely. I'll let you know when it comes out, and if there's anything you want to promote or whatever, I'll put it in the description, the links or whatever. As far as yeah, like I said, I'll send you links whenever it comes. Just episodes come out in general you want to support, but anything you need supported, just
Yeah, for sure. I'll definitely watch out for other episodes so I can share them as well.
of course. All right. Well, you hang in there, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Have a nice day, DJ. TJ, sorry.
Yeah, see, I already messed my name. She hates me.
Bye.
Bye.
Sorry.
No, you're good. All right, guys, that was fun. I wanted to kind of reveal something here at the end. Oh boy, dun dun dun. As Bullet lays on my lap, I just scared him. So I'm off my medication. Nah, now everything makes sense now, doesn't it? No, I've kind of stopped my antidepressants. Not cold turkey. I've been kind of going on, weighing off of it. But my mind is just a little like, it's starting to pop a little more. I'm starting to like, I'm still struggling for words, but I'm getting it back. I'm starting to like the medication is definitely locking things in. So we are getting off of this pronto because I'm starting to feel the last two podcasts that I'm just I'm a little more quick on my feet and I'm starting to really develop my thoughts a little more fluently. So this is great. Anyway, she was awesome. What a great person. We were kind of missing each other off and on because we were trying to do this and she had a lot going on with her family and stuff. And so I'm just happy that she's doing well and yeah, I'll hope to hear from her soon. And yeah, guys, I appreciate all your support. I'm in a good mood. I'm about to go to Grandma's to get some food. If you'd like to know what food, it's hamburger helper with garlic bread. I don't know. She might make a salad or something. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to go eat. Bullet, you have anything to say? No? Bullet? He's smelling the mic. Okay. He doesn't have anything to say. All right. I tried to bring him in. I need a podcast host, and Bullet, I'm sorry. I don't think it can be you. But yeah, I love you guys. Like I said, like, comment, subscribe, so on and so on. I will see you on the next one. And yeah, everybody hang in there and take care of yourselves. All right, boy.